Hi, I'm Kathy Mills from Short Film Edits, and I'm here with Jen Cooper today for an interview. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Could we start this with you telling us a little bit about you?
Sure. I'm Jen Cooper and I write spicy romance novels for Inkitt and Galatea and hopefully soon Amazon.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to become a writer?
I just have really vivid dreams. So I have really vivid dreams. I wake up and I remember them. And when I was a teenager, I used to just write them in notebooks everywhere all the time. I think my first story was like 300 pages of refill, and it was just a YA high school story just to get it out of my head. And then it just carried on.
Oh, I love that. So, when did you publish your first novel?
Oh, I published that under a pen name years and years ago. Like I was like 18, had no idea the industry even existed for it. Just thought, oh
Mhm.
yeah, I'll check it out there. And then I learned way more and took it down. But
Oh,
it is a series that's getting published just once I've done more things to it.
that's cool. I like that. All right. When you first started writing, did you have a particular type of story you wanted to tell?
I think when I first started, I was so young that I was in my high school era. So it was like the Twilight era. It was like I wanted to
Hmm.
tell those kinds of stories, like those fun, sort of lighthearted with a bit of like it's that never-ending romance kind of vibes. I knew it was always going to be a romance story. Anything I wrote was always going to have that like lifelong addictive romance feel to it. And then I just adapted it over the years to have like more substance, maybe be a fantasy, maybe be contemporary and all of that. So I think yeah, at the start it was just wanting to tell one of those really addictive romance stories that you can't forget, that never leave your head.
Yeah, yeah. Do you prefer writing like the shorter novels or like the long ones? Like, so people really have to deep dive into these long books.
Longer.
Yeah, longer.
100% longer. I have a tendency to overwrite every time, and I always have to get my chapters cut down so they even fit.
Yeah.
Because I just keep going, and I never want to end the story. I'm always like, "Yep, I've got to add more. I've got to add more." And yeah, no, it's that's why Study Buddy in the books is actually part one and part two because the book
Yeah.
was so long that I had to split it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I was
definitely
about to say that
longer.
you could like move them, make more parts for them if you've got a longer story. So that's
That's
cool.
true. Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So, when writing romance, what do you think creates genuine chemistry between two characters?
I think building a level of trust is really important between the characters. And also, I think building a foundation that sets them apart from anyone else they'd meet in real life. So, what's to say that someone else isn't going to come along with that exact scenario and they're going to feel that chemistry with them? So, you've got to really find a way to give them something different. And that's the
Mm.
spark that readers are going to remember, and the spark that readers are going to cling to and be like, I need them exactly as they are. Because if you put someone else in that role, it's like a lot of the books nowadays, there's a lot of bad boys and morally grey men, and you've got to find a way to make that specific guy stand out or that specific female character stick in the head and be like, I want to be them. I want to have what they have and not just be able to be replaced by the next chick or guy that comes along in the story. So I think building that foundation and setting them apart and giving them something personal to cling to is super important to make sure that it actually hits with readers.
Yeah, absolutely. When doing that, what do you think that you can do to make that character feel like really memorable?
Having some form of relatability. So
Mm,
every reader is a person in themselves. They all have their own hobbies, their own morals, their own beliefs, and that sort of thing. And you've got to find that one little thing that they can be like, oh my gosh, same. And
yeah,
then they can put themselves in that character and be like, yes, I can see myself doing this. I can see myself wanting this and that sort of thing. So and obviously that's really hard to do because
yeah.
there's millions of people in the world, billions.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yes. Yeah.
so finding a way to make your character really memorable and relatable is really hard. But once you find it and you can see them as their own person in your head, I think that's when you've found that sweet spot of like, yes, this character is going to be really good for readers.
Yes, yes. And everybody will find that different person in different books.
Exactly, exactly. And then if you give them sort of not making them a cliche, so not putting that character in a box and being like, okay, so this girl at high school is blonde, she's a bitchy, she's a
Mm.
cheerleader, she's definitely going to be the mean girl. Stepping out of that comfort zone, I suppose, like in Study Buddy with Tessa, she's this bubbly, fun, character who's got all these things going on that would normally make her like the bitchy chick that wants to keep all the guys for herself and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to write that character. I want her
Mm.
to have her own personality, her own things going on. She doesn't care what anyone else is doing, but I want her to be supportive and sort of stick out of that comfort zone so that people can relate to the side characters too. And
Yes.
I think that helps as well because people are gonna see parts of themselves in the different characters and be able to pull from all of that scenario and be like, okay, I can see myself there.
Yeah. Yeah. She was a great character.
I
She
did
was.
love her. Yeah, she's
Yes.
definitely got a side piece in my mind. I'm like, yep, I've got to write her story.
Oh, excited for that. Excited for that one. Okay. Have you ever had a character completely change from the person you originally intended them to be?
Yes. So this one's in Study Buddy.
Hmm.
Sam, in the book, Sam dates Amelia for the bet,
Hmm.
and she doesn't know that, and so he takes her on all these like cute as dates. And at first, I wasn't actually going to have him involved with the bet at all. I was going to have him be the Prince Charming and sort of give Zeke something to be jealous of, like before he knows about the bet and all of that. I wanted it to be like, this is what she could have. He is genuinely making Amelia happy, and Zeke can't take that from her. And
Mm.
so I wanted Sam to really be the Prince Charming that Amelia wanted, and then realized, and then that was going to be like where her character turned and goes, well, maybe that's not what I want. Maybe it's about the person and not about that like white picket fence vibe that I thought I wanted. But then I wanted the conflict and I changed it.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
Sam fit better into
No.
being more of a villain vibe.
I mean, I think both ways would have definitely worked. Like, I know one way worked, but the other way would have definitely worked as well.
Yeah. I think I rewrote it quite a few times to sort of see which one fit better. And I think in the end, I needed to have someone else in on the bet because in the book, Fabian's character is kind of preoccupied with everything else. So
Mm.
he wasn't really ever going to win the bet. And I needed
Yeah.
someone to be close. I needed someone to be so close that it pissed Zeke off.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see that. I see that. All right. How do you balance giving readers the things they love about your stories while still keeping the story unpredictable?
That one's really hard. That one is really hard. I think yeah, sometimes it's quite hard to find the sweet spot. On one hand, you want to listen to what your readers want. You really want to give them what they're asking for. But on the other hand, you don't want to compromise the story.
Yeah.
So you want to tell the story that's in your head that you know is what you want to tell. But sometimes if you're so stuck in the story, then you don't see the little points that readers are going to jar on. So
Mm.
I think finding that balance is hard and maybe knowing the points in the story that you specifically want to tell and being able to compromise on the other things. So, like if there's a specific scene or a specific setting or a specific relationship that you really know has to go in there as integral to the plot or the whole story comes undone, don't listen to the feedback on those. Just stick with what you know, stick with what you want, and make sure the integrity of the story stays there. But I think on the little things, on the little compromises and stuff, when readers are sort of being like, not really feeling that, then I think you can
Mhm.
take things out. Like, for example, on Galatea, I have a book called His Minx, and there was a scene that I wrote. It was really dark, and readers were like, this was so much darker than the rest of the book. You've taken us like way further than we thought we would go, and we're kind of jarring on it, not fully having
Mm.
it. So that was in the rough draft when I was posting it chapter by chapter on Inkitt. So when I published it, I actually took that chapter out
Okay.
because it pulled readers so far out of the story, and I didn't want that. I knew if that's what was happening by multiple readers, I knew that putting it in the book was a mistake. So I left it
Mm.
in the rough draft, but it's not in the actual book. So I think, yeah,
Okay.
finding that balance where you want to do that, where you want to like, yeah, you want your end goal to be that the readers enjoy it. And if there's something specific that heaps of readers just aren't enjoying, then just don't put it in.
So with that scenario, if somebody really liked that dark part of the story, but it didn't match, how do you decide which way to go? Turn the rest of the story darker or pull it back to the original?
I think, well, in this specific instance, I think it was the fact that the majority vote was like an 80-20 split.
Okay.
And it's like, you know, you don't want to lose 80 readers, 80% of readers to keep 20% happy. And the fact that that 20% still got to read the dark version.
Yeah.
So I think in that instance, you have to think of your end goal. What do you want out of your end goal? Is it to be published with this vibe or published with this vibe? And once you've decided on that, you can decide which way you want to go. So do I want the darker vibe in there? Is it crucial to the story? Does it change it too much? And I think looking at the overall story now, it does flow better without the scene, without the darkness in there going that far. Because it
Yeah.
still had those vibes, it just didn't need to go that far, and the readers pulled me back.
Yeah. So did you like fully rewrite that scene or did you just take it out?
I just adjusted the ends of the previous chapter and the start of the next chapter, sort of like
Yeah.
brush over the
Yeah.
context of what happened. But I just, yeah, essentially I just took it out because
Yeah.
and I guess that in turn is actually better for the story because if you can take out a whole chapter, it probably doesn't need to be there anyway.
True. That's true. I started my first because I'm not a big reader. Okay. Admit that. I love the Heartstopper books because they're graphic novels. So I love graphic
Oh yes,
novels.
that's cool.
Yes. I have the Heated Rivalry set, which I haven't read yet
I haven't
because
read
I'm,
that either.
because I'm kind of like, I don't know whether I want to watch before I read or read before I
Yes.
watch. So I'm not sure yet, but I started my journey. Obviously, the Saddle Club when I was a teenager,
Oh
read
yes,
that.
yeah. I was
But
there.
yeah, yeah. But the big one that I started with, I deep dove, wrote in there and writing there, sorry, and started with Game of Thrones. That was a
Oh
mistake.
yes. Yeah, that's a big one to start with.
Yeah. There was like so many jumping storylines and I'm just like, yeah, I shouldn't have done this.
that that was a lot.
It was. I read like two of them and then I sold the book set and I was like, can't, I'll just watch it.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Hmm. You've built a readership through digital platforms. How has having such direct access to your readers changed you as a writer?
Hmm. I think it's I think it's made me realize that the readers are such a huge part of your journey. So when you
Mm,
first start writing, you know, and you first start writing a book, usually it's quite a lonely process. You're just in your own head all the time, just typing away on a computer, writing on a bit of paper or whatever.
mm,
And you're not really thinking about all the outside things that are going on. Whereas I think being on an online platform like Galatea or Inkitt, where you've got readers so into your first drafts of your story, I think it changes the way you approach the story because you're like, oh, that reader had that one comment about that. Is other people thinking that? Should I be
mm.
thinking that? And I think it makes you take a second look at the quality of your writing and the plot points. And I think it helps you, I guess, skip the part where you need to just rely on yourself because you're not really a good judge because it's your book, baby. Like you're going to
Yeah.
be a little biased on what you're doing. So I think it helps you get an outside perspective. And for me, it changed the fact that now I'm not just a name on a book. I'm not, you know,
Mm,
people can pick up my book, but now I have a platform where people can put a face to the name and be like, no, this is an actual person who wrote this book. She's got her own life. This is her, you know, her career, and she can put out more content for us. And it sort of goes back to the whole, you know, branding side of things where suddenly people are seeing like more content and more content, and they're like, oh yay, I like this whole situation. I'm going to be a part of this whole journey, you know.
yeah.
So I think having that so accessible, just I think it really helps you as a writer. I think it changes how you perceive writing as a career in general because you've just got constant people around you either hyping you up or helping you with your journey. And I think without an online platform, you're going to miss out on that. You're going to miss out on all the community that comes with writing on that kind of platform.
Yes. And I think that helps the fans feel kind of part of the story by
Yeah,
being able to talk about it and
100%.
interact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, for example, like in Owned by the Alphas, that's like my main series. And all of the children and stuff in that and heaps of the characters were all named by my readers. I
Oh,
would put out a
cool.
question and be like, hey, what do I need baby names? Someone give me baby names, like, and it means that now when they read it, they're like, hey, that was my name. And then in a spin-off series, I needed a villain name. And instead of poring over Google names and baby name books and stuff, I was like,
Yeah.
hey, do you guys have a villain name? And bonus points if you know what that villain name means or something like that. And then I'd go with one of those. And then I had one of the readers reach out to me and be like, hey, you picked my name, thank you. And
Oh,
so I think having that access to readers and involving them in the journey helps make them excited for what you're doing. And then that, in turn, that hypes you up to want to
yeah.
continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I really do. I love that you've used your fans as part of your books. That's really cool. Because I
It's
know that
really
there
fun.
are some writers who are very strict into what they want is the only thing that goes on paper. So I think that just makes that a really unique experience
It
for
is
both
really fun. I
sides.
think it makes it fun too, because then
Yeah.
when I'm reading, I know now that I didn't name you.
Yeah,
You're my
yeah.
readers, baby.
Yeah. Oh, and then that baby may get that book one day and go, oh,
They
that's
will.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that so much. All right. Do you think writing for platforms like Inkitt and Galatea has taught you different storytelling skills?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely, actually. Yeah. Because when you're writing just as a draft on your own, you don't have any structure. You kind of have it in your mind of like how you want to tell your story and that sort of thing. But when you go to a proper publishing platform, they kind of train you to write how publishers expect you to write. So
Mm.
before I was doing chapters that were like 7,000 words long. That is not a good chapter length.
Dude, bit long.
And so now as they're like I've been with them for about 3 years now, and as those years have gone, now I can write a chapter that's 2,000 words long and know exactly how to write that. I'm not
Mm.
skipping things. I'm not going, oh, but I need 7,000 words to tell this part of the story. No, I don't. I need 2,000 words. And now I can structure my chapters at 2,000 words from the get go. And it makes my first drafts a lot quicker and a lot cleaner because they've helped me, I guess, clean up my writing.
Hmm.
And so now I can write what they expect from the get go rather than just writing whatever comes to mind and babbling through the story.
Yeah, yeah. It helps you break it down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's good. That's good. All right. Have you ever written a villain and found yourself sympathizing with them more than the hero?
Ooh, that one's hard because there's so many different types of villains in writing. There's ones that are just villains, like they're just being dicks to be dicks. But then you've got other villains like ones that really believe what they're doing is right. They really believe they're doing it for the right thing. And I think I always try to give those villains an empathy story.
Mm.
Like in my first series that I ever wrote, this was the one way back when,
Hmm.
and that's actually getting published on Galatea at some point. It's in the publishing pipeline. That one was probably the biggest turnaround for the villain that I've ever written, and they started off really horrible, really villainous. And then as it went through, I was like, he needs a backstory. And then I ended up giving him a backstory that was just so awful. And you finally understood why he was doing what he was doing. And suddenly I was like, oh, now I feel really sorry for him. And I'm like, should I make him do more mean things so that they actually still hate him?
You know, I find that with film. So I speak about this a lot. So like with verticals, especially because they don't have much time, um, with the villains, we don't get as much backstory in order to
No.
feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's hard to connect with the
Yeah.
villain. Sometimes they're just mean.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
And like even in Study Buddy, Fabian has a backstory
mm,
and he has a whole personality that's actually a bit darker as to like why he would even think to make up a stupid bet like that. Like
hmm.
and why he would even treat women the way he treats them. And there's actually a reason, and it goes into it in the book obviously. And so I think that's one of the main differences between a book and a movie is that, yeah, you get all that character backstory, but with verticals obviously there's just not much time to go into those because we have to make sure you connect with the main characters and make sure you can see the chemistry happening there, you know?
Yes. Yes. And you have to do it in a short amount of time. Like,
It's a short
you
amount
know,
of time. I was quite surprised.
yes, yes, very short amount of time. But then I do know that with Candy Jar, their stories are also a little bit shorter than other
I
apps
was,
as
yeah,
well. So yeah.
they are. Yeah, I think Study Buddy was like 40 something minutes. And I was like, oh, how are you going to tell two books in 40 minutes?
Yeah, but they did.
They
They did.
did.
Yeah. All right. You've created worlds filled with supernatural elements. How do you make sure the fantasy never overshadows the human emotions?
Ooh, good question. I like this one. Um, how do I do that? I think I the first thing that I have to do when I'm doing that sort of thing is one, I have to separate the fact that this is a fantasy world. So I create an actual world. I go through the world building is like the biggest part of my process when I'm doing fantasy ones. So I say, we have a monetary system. So what's the monetary system? What's the education system? What's the magic system? What's the judicial system, the like law and police
Mhm.
and all of that, like what is their structure for their world basically. And then when I'm doing that, I say, how would a human fit into this? And if the character isn't human, then it's a little bit easier because you can kind of play on the rules and stuff. But normally I think trying to keep those human emotions, I'm like, if I really want someone to be really humane and part of the story as someone with the normal human emotions in a fantasy world, I think of I just have to put a human in that position. I pretend they're human for a minute and be like, if they were a human going through this, what would be their initial reaction? What would be their emotions? And then I just have to spice it up with some fantasy if they're not a human themselves. But normally, I try to keep it in line and realistic to what a human would feel because I think when you're writing fantasy, if you go too far from what a normal human would react without a reason, that's going to be hard for anyone to relate to because we're not fantasy people, we're human people. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think making sure I keep in mind that my readers are human. My readers need to understand these motivations, they need to understand these emotions. So again, it goes back to that question of how do readers influence you? And it's reminding myself that readers are the ones reading this. That if I want to
Yes.
affect them, I have to remember that their emotions count and how they feel and how they would deal with things are hugely important to what I'm writing.
Absolutely. And a lot of fantasy characters generally started off as humans or have like a human element to them still.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
I like that. All right. Have you ever had a reader interpret one of your characters or scenes in a way you never intended, but it made you see your story differently?
Oh, I don't know if I have. I don't think so. I'm pretty intentional with the way that I want the story to come across and how I want it to read. So I don't think I've had a reader see it as differently. Maybe I wrote a really spicy story, the His Minx and Her Stallion duet, are
Mhm.
really spicy. And I think some of the themes in that were really controversial. So I think that was probably the one that some readers were like, yes, I get this. I see the empowerment. I see the picture that you're trying to build. But because it was a controversial topic, it was like really taboo. So it was, I think that was probably the one that you either got it or you didn't.
Mm.
You either understood where I was coming from or you didn't. And I think for that particular scenario, it was one of those things that I was happy with that. I was like, this was the story I wanted to tell. So if you got it, awesome, enjoy the story. If you didn't, then that's okay, move on to the next one.
Yeah, yeah. Not everybody's going to relate to every story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing. If you're telling a story that you know is just one of those ones that's going to have that level of, "Ooh, is that hitting where it needs to?" And then that's fine. That's,
Mm.
yeah, for me, that's like, I mean, that's kind of the what you are as a writer. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's subjective. There's going to be books that some people love and some people don't. You know, like a majority of my readership is for my fantasy books. So then
Mhm.
when Study Buddy came out, they were like, "What? You write this too?"
Yeah. Hey,
So yeah,
versatile. It's great.
yeah.
It's great. It stops you from being typecast into one genre too.
Yeah. And I don't think I'll ever be able to just not write one or the other. I think,
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's definitely one of those things where I just write whatever story I have in my head at the time and who knows what it's going to be.
Yeah, that's the best way to be.
Yeah.
All right. What was the initial spark that led you to the idea of Study Buddy?
I had written a lot of fantasy at that point,
Mhm.
and I really wanted to try a contemporary. And I was obsessed with reading college romances at the time. I was reading so many, and every one that I read was the hot chick, the skinny hot chick, getting with the playboy, changing him, and she stayed the same. And I was
Mhm.
getting bored. And I was like, can there just be a character that I relate to? Can there just be a girl that's not popular, that's not one of the ones that wants to go out and do all these things? And so I really fell in love with the opposites attract trope. And I was like, I really want to create a story where they're just so opposite, but they stay opposite. But that's actually what brings them together. I didn't want them to change to the point where she's no longer herself. And I wanted him to still be himself, but obviously lose the Playboy thing because we don't like that. And so I really wanted to do fall into the opposites attract college romance with everything I had. And I think that initial spark of being annoyed at what I was currently reading in the genre really helped hit it off. Like, fun fact was Amelia and Zeke are named Amelia and Zeke because they're opposite ends of the alphabet, A and Z.
Ah,
And I was
cool.
like, A and Z.
Love
So
that.
opposites attract. And I was like, and so yeah, it just spiraled from there. It was like, right, I want to make sure they're still opposites. I want them to be in the same space, roommates. And I
Mm.
think when I was writing it, the most important thing was to make them friends before
Yeah.
they actually got together. And so in the book, their chemistry lasts a lot longer. So they have a really long time before they're actually together because I wanted to make sure that Zeke started, he wasn't just a playboy, he just liked people in general. So
Mm.
he ended up being really good friends with Amelia and he started being her confidant. He'd go into her room and just hang out with her and he just wanted to be in her company and she was like, really? So it was kind of like I just wanted them to be who they were and not be trying to change each other because that's what I was finding in the genre at the time was that they just changed so much from who they were. And I was like, I want a romance where they fall in love with who they are, not who they can be. And so that was really important. And I think even though the candy jar is a lot different to the story, they still brought that to
Mm.
the candy jar. So, and I think because that relatability was there, that's what sparked like, oh, this would make a great candy jar.
Yeah, yeah. And I love the representation in that now even more after speaking to you because it's not just about the representation for bigger women and just the opposite thing is the fact that you don't have to change to be with the
Yeah.
person that you love.
That's what I wanted. I specifically like I just don't and I think when you're writing a bigger character and having that representation, it's really important that you don't I guess sulk on the fact. And like
Mm.
every book I read that was about a bigger woman and that sort of thing, it was like that's all they talked about. That's all they thought about. That's all they had to say about themselves. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they're still people. And people
Mhm.
have they have hobbies, they have dreams, they have things they want to do, no matter what size they are. And I really wanted Amelia to have that. I really wanted Amelia to acknowledge that yes, she was not the skinniest girl in the college, but she was still a person and she still had a life that she wanted to live, and that actually gave her confidence to not be like ridiculously shy or anything like that. She was just happy with who she was. She was happy being by herself, and I really wanted that to come through. So I'm glad that Candy Jar really stuck to that idea. And yes, they still use the oh she's under experienced, and that was still a
Mhm.
part of her story, but it wasn't due to her being like not lacking that confidence. It was just her wanting to be who she was rather than changing for what everyone wanted her to be.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that I think the only time that we will win in a story completely is like the same with, the bigger people and LGBT and things like that, is when it's not even mentioned. It's just
Yeah,
normal,
it's
you
just a part
know?
of everyday life.
Exactly. And I think this story got really close to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And it's definitely what I did in the book. The book, it was pretty much, I think it was mentioned maybe twice in the book that she even was. And it was just because she was
mm,
talking to Tessa, because Tessa said, "Why don't you try on my clothes?" And she just kind of looks at her like, "Yeah, sure."
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Let's be realistic here.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, yeah. Oh, because we've all been in that situation with a friend,
Yeah,
come
exactly.
on,
And that was the sort
really?
of thing. Like, I wanted it to come up in natural instances where it would
Mm,
actually be something that popped into the mind, but it's not always on her mind. She's
yeah.
busy out creating a career for herself, going to college, getting amazing grades. It's
Mhm.
not something that's like always on her mind, but in those specific instances, like where they're going to the beach and Tessa was, there's a beach scene that I really wanted, but it didn't make it. And, Tessa says, "Do you want to use one of my bikinis?" And Amelia's like, no.
No.
For one boob.
Yeah, I was about to say that, but like it would fit one. Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
so that's a natural instance where that would come up, and I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that that was how it went in the book. So I think Candy Jar did really well adapting that into a movie version.
Oh, that's so cool. That's cool. All right. So Amelia and Zeke come from different worlds. What interested you most about bringing these two personalities together?
It was just the
Yeah.
idea that two very different people could come together and still be who they are. Like, he can still be a baseball captain and want his dream of being drafted, and she can still, in the book, she's a digital artist, so
Hmm.
she does comic book drawings and stuff. They made her a painter in the thing, but she's
Yeah.
not in the book. And she's actually writing a comic called Study Buddy for her thesis and stuff. So
Oh.
yeah, so she still wants to do that. She loves drawing. She loves a bit creating, and so he doesn't know anything about that. And she's one of those ones that's obsessed with all rom-coms, loves Christmas, all of these things. And those are all things that he's just not interested in. They're not things that he's interested in. And I wanted to make sure that they could still be in those spaces. Amelia's not going to stop watching her rom-coms just because Zeke walks in.
Mhm.
And I wanted Zeke to be able to do what he does and not have to change it up just because Amelia doesn't like it or doesn't want to do it or whatever. I still wanted them to have those experiences because I think you can't be fully invested in the romance of the couple if they don't seem like themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge point for Amelia in particular, to be comfortable in herself and with her own personality before she can attach someone else to it, kind of thing.
Mhm. Yes. I think like you said, they didn't change. They just made small compromises for each other.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, yeah, and it was compromises that didn't change them as a person, just kind of made the journey more enjoyable together,
Yes.
So yeah, and I think that's super important with when you're creating characters that are so opposite, because it's hard to make them so opposite without changing them by the end of the book because they're with someone who's just not like them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. Okay. What was the biggest challenge in balancing the romance with the characters' individual journeys?
That was hard, but I think that was the main point, was getting their arcs, their character arc of, like, Zeke is used to, he knows he's going to be drafted by a baseball team. He could be going off to who knows where with his baseball career. So he knows there's no point settling down. He knows there's no point getting a girlfriend and getting attached. And he's always said that. He's always been upfront about it. He knows that's the situation. And so he's always been fickle with romances and that sort of thing. There's no point getting attached for him. And with Amelia, she wants the hearts, the flowers, the poems. She wants the romance. She's a rom com girly. She wants that die for love kind of thing. And so I think having both of those difference in opinions with the romance, I think that was the biggest change to their characters, and making sure that it was realistic and that they didn't just be like, "Oh yeah, I switched. I've changed my
Hmm.
mind. I want that now." Just because they liked each other. It had to be hard. It had to be something that they had to consider. And I think for a while in the book, they just don't. They just say, "Well, look, we'll just be friends." Like, they acknowledge that, yes, there's something between them, but there's not really any point pursuing it because they can't be what each other needs. And I think that was the point where it started switching between them, because they accepted it and they had to grow up a little bit about it, because they couldn't keep being in the same space and just pretending that there wasn't this chemistry between them. So I think making it realistic and sort of entertaining the idea that they are actually, even though they're in college, they still have emotions and they go through these hard things as pretty much adults. And so they do, I wanted them to have this, like, a lot of communication between them. I wanted them to be able to talk to each other and pretty much be best friends, so that by the end of it, it seemed realistic that the romance would happen that way. So that by the end of the stuff that happens at the end of the book, that actually it made sense that they ended up together. Otherwise, it's kind of like, oh yeah, but that wouldn't happen. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, you needed that conclusion with them both happy. I mean, I'm not saying they couldn't be happy just staying friends, but I also think that like reading a book or watching something, you kind of get the expectation of what, they will eventually be together. But I
Exactly.
do also love the stories where sometimes that just doesn't happen. And
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes they're okay with just being friends.
And I had to put that question mark over them the whole story,
Mm,
because they are so opposite and they have their own individual journeys, and they so there had to be this question mark of like, are they actually going to be able to make this work? Are they actually going to get together? So I think having that as part of their individual journeys, like, she's figuring out what she wants, he's figuring out what he wants, but also they know what they want together, but they know they just can't have it yet. And so I
yeah.
think having that question mark of are they ever going to, is what keeps the tension there, what keeps that yeah, keeps readers coming back like, oh, is it this chapter, is it this chapter? So I think
Hmm.
that's really important, as well as keeping it realistic. I think that's the main one, is just keeping them realistic and making sure that you understand that, yeah, these are humans, even though they're just fictional in a story.
Yeah,
You're writing about humans that actually need to have a realistic story on their own, not just as a romance.
absolutely. Yeah. So how did you feel when you first heard that this was being adapted to screen?
I was so excited. I was so excited. I was like, wow, this is going to be a new opportunity. And it's quite cool when you think that your book that you've seen in your head for years is suddenly going to be able to be seen by everyone. And so that was quite exciting. And then the nerves kicked in, and I was like, are they really going to be able to tell my story like I see it in
Hmm.
my head? But I think with that one, I just had to trust that they were going to look after it, because they know movies. I know books. I'm not. I'm good
Yeah.
to watch movies, but I know books more than I know movies. So, and they knew what they
Yeah.
were doing. And the director Caroline was so good. She did so well with,
Amazing.
yeah, she did so well. And so, yeah, once I saw it, I was so happy. I was like, I had nerves up until I saw it, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
yes, they did a good job. So yeah, it was really awesome to be able to be like, yay, there's a new version of the story being told. And so yeah, it's really exciting feeling.
Yes. Caroline is one of like by far one of my favorite directors.
Yeah,
She's
she always
incredible.
does a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. I love her. All right. Was there a scene in Study Buddy that you rewrote multiple times because you wanted to get it exactly right?
There was, but I don't think it's in the movie.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there's a scene in the book, and it's like a Christmas scene with Zeke and Amelia, and it's near the end, and Christmas is really important to Amelia, and Zeke is trying to make it important to her. And he's never been interested in Christmas. He's like, yeah, it's another holiday. Oh well, like, because in the book his parents are like really rich, and they just leave him to his own devices a lot of the time, and so it's never been like a super important holiday. And but that's when he really puts the effort in to give her what she's asking for. But they know that he's being drafted, that he's going to be gone after this summer or winter. And so it's kind of like a goodbye. It's like the Christmas, they think it's the last time they're going to get to spend together. So he stays up all night and sets up the whole apartment for her and gives her the Christmas of her dreams. And then he dresses up as sexy Santa, which is so fun. And so, and so he gives her this fun thing. And I rewrote that so many times, because it was quite a pivotal point for their relationship, in the sense that he was giving her something completely selflessly. there was no benefit in it for him in the sense of it didn't change the circumstance. They were still going to have to say goodbye. They knew that this was still the end, and he did it purely out of wanting to make her happy, and knowing that it was going to bring her a bit of joy and that sort of thing. And so I think that scene was so important emotionally. But when I was writing it, I kept getting caught up in like what was happening, what he was doing, and that sort of thing. So I had to keep rewriting it to make sure I got the weight of that emotion in it. And that's like one scene out of like so many that I've had to do that for, because I think, yeah, when you're writing, you get so caught up in the actions and dialogue and that sort of thing, that making sure that it has the weight that you're meant to have in it for the emotional change that it's meant to have is really hard to get right the first time, unless you're fully inside your character's head. And I think it takes a minute to get there, especially because I wrote a lot of the story from Amelia's point of view. So when switching to Zeke's, and this was one of the big moments for him emotionally, I really had to like tap in. So that was one that I had to rewrite a lot of times.
Oh, I really want to see that on screen now.
I know there were a couple of scenes that didn't make it to the screen because they just didn't fit in the vertical. But yeah, there was definitely a few scenes like that.
I think we need a study buddy retake BTS day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then we just need to like add those scenes in.
Yeah,
Yes.
these are the scenes from the book that didn't make it, but they still want to exist. So here you
Yes.
go.
Yes, we need that. Okay. Which scene were you most excited to see brought to screen?
Which scene? I think, I mean, it's really hard because I wanted the whole thing.
Yes.
So every scene, I'm like, yes. And because the adaptation is so different, so I don't think there's like a full scene that is exactly what I wrote in the book.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really think of one that's exact. But the one, it's kind of partial, but the one where Zeke finds out that Sam is actually dating Amelia for the bet. That one was really cool. In the book I wrote it, they were at a fair, and Sam had invited Amelia, but Amelia didn't go. And then she ended up going with Tessa and them, and she finds Sam there with another girl. And he's like, oh, guess the cat's out of the bag. Yeah, I wasn't actually into this, right. And so then that crushes her, and Zeke actually punches him. And so that scene readers absolutely loved when I was first writing it on Inca. And yeah, so I really wanted that scene to be in there. And when I was asked what scenes, that was one of the ones that was going to be in there. But obviously they had to fit it with the vertical. So it ended up being the one at the party, the scene at the party where Zeke finds out and that sort of thing. So that scene, I was really excited for that emotion from Zeke to show that he actually does care. So despite him saying that he doesn't, the readers know he does. The readers know that we've seen the side of Zeke that Zeke can't even see for himself yet, you know? So I think that scene I was really excited to see come to life because it shows that emotional change in Zeke.
Absolutely. We definitely need that day to do those scenes. Like I'm seeing all
Yeah.
these things. I'm like, oh my God, I want to see them.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Like we can imagine them. We can just
Yes.
imagine them.
Yes. That's what I did.
All right. Looking back at your journey, what are you most proud of?
Or honestly, the whole journey in itself, like to start writing a book just because you feel like writing down the voices in your head, and then to have it turn out into a proper book, and publishing with Galatea and having multiple books out there, and now a vertical. All of that is just blows my mind all the time. I'm like, wow, this is like dreams come true. So I think the most proud is just the fact that I keep going, because when you first start writing, you don't think anything's going to happen with it, or unless you're intentionally writing for something to happen. But at the start, when it was way back when, before social media was like a big thing, it was just writing because I felt like it. So keeping on writing through the years of becoming a mum and that sort of thing, and still keeping that little part for myself to be like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm enjoying doing, and taking it from a hobby into a career. That's like, I'm really proud of that, because I think, when you become a mum, you sort of sometimes you can drop off. Sometimes you can stop doing the things you enjoy, stop doing those things for yourself. And I think writing was my wind down time. And I still kept that for myself and, pushed through all the hard years. So now it's sort of like, wow, it actually became worth it, made something of it. And now I get to see my books all the time.
Yeah. This is mine for me, it's that
Yes.
for me. I'm still at the start of my journey, but it's my outlet, you know.
Exactly. It is. It is. And it's definitely so important to keep that for yourself and to
Mhm.
to keep pushing, even when you're like, oh, not today, or something like that, to keep just remembering that at least you get to,
Yeah.
like, at least you have that start, you have that platform, and you have that drive to do it because you're like, I started it. If I start it and stop, then that was a waste of my time. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of gives you the strength when you love it so much to push past any other hurdles that come your
yes,
way.
definitely. Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally agree.
All right, I've got two more questions. What excites you most about the next chapter of your career?
Oh, okay. This one, I'm trying to branch out from just being the author of Owned by the Alphas or the author of Study Buddy, like having specific titles under my name, obviously really great. But I want to expand from just writing on digital platforms like Inca Galatea. I want to be self-publishing my own stories that are completely my own, that I can tell and put them on Amazon so they're sold everywhere and that sort of thing. I think, yeah, branching out into a new career avenue is sort of my next step in the sense that I feel like I've done a lot with Inca and Galatea over the last few years, but now I really want to see what I can do.
Yeah.
And so branching out into self-publishing my own work and um we've got some stuff in the works. Evelyn Miller, who wrote Fight Dirty and
Mhm.
Broken, we've got some stuff in the works. We're collabing on a couple of projects and we're collabing on a podcast that we're doing. So,
Ooh.
yeah, so we're really excited to start that. But we both suck with tech, so we're
Mhm.
getting there. But yeah, so I
All
think just
amazing stories.
yeah, and just we're hoping to just expand on this authoring that we're doing now into more and doing more with readers, I think, and bringing them more into our space because at the moment we are still names on a page and where we have our Instagrams and stuff like that, social medias, which we're really lucky to have because they just didn't have those, years ago
Mhm.
when it was like you just had to sell a book, hopefully. And so now we want to utilize it. We want to make sure we're not taking it for granted and actually be able to use it to expand what we're doing,
Mhm.
and sort of connect with readers and build a community rather than just saying, oh, here's my book, can you buy it? We
Yeah.
want to really connect with readers and bring them into our space and be like, hey, we're friends, like let's build each other up, sort of
Yeah.
thing. So I think that's really important. And I think that's sort of the things that we're doing next are going to lead us in that direction.
Yeah. And I think all that would just inspire you to be better writers too. Like
Oh,
encourage.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
100%. And just write more all the time.
Yeah.
We're just like, yeah, I'm always working on like 4 to 5 books at a time, which is too many. And I usually fall behind on every deadline, but that's okay.
So when you do that, do you not get mixed up between books? I wouldn't be able to focus on more than just one.
No,
I'd get
I
lost.
think because I've been writing for so long now, I have this like system where I bring up all the tabs for all the projects on my computer, and that's what I have to get done by the end of the day. So I just finish my task on that tab, bring it down, finish my task on that tab, bring it down. And I'm not allowed to go to bed until all my tabs are down.
I
And so
like
I
that.
think it's just kind of compartmentalizing in my head, and I've gotten really good at it after writing for so long.
Oh, good, good. And the good thing about that and the hard thing about that is not every day goes as planned, especially with
Yeah.
children. So to have that
Oh,
deadline, that must be
yeah.
hard some days.
It is very hard. A lot of the days.
Yeah.
A lot of the days I'll plan something really intense. I'll be like, right, I've got to get like 4 chapters done today. This is going to be impossible. And then the kid's
Mhm.
sick, and I've got to be like, yeah, just kidding.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I mean, when I'm doing my questions for interviews for the next day, like sometimes I'm not doing the questions that I need until the
Yeah.
day before,
Yeah.
so because I've got so much going on. And so I'm like, I have to prioritize those questions for the interview prior to the edit that I have that I need
Yes.
to do. So I have to like prioritize them, but I still try to
Yes.
like, if I had prioritized this today, then that thing that I pushed back a little bit is for tomorrow. Yeah.
Prioritizing is such an important skill to learn in any industry,
Yes.
especially when you're doing it from home or with kids. I'm
Yeah.
like, you have got to learn to what you need to get done versus what you want to get done.
Yes, like scheduling interviews where I do like 3 a day, which I've been trying not to do, but
It is a
I try
lot.
to schedule them during school hours. But then
Yes.
all of a sudden one of the children are home sick and it's like, okay,
Oh,
that's
I was just kidding. I didn't even want to do it that day.
yeah, it is. Oh, well, I still do. I still do. My
Well
kids are
done.
very, very good. When it comes to my interviews, they support me 100% and they're only 10 and 6.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
That's
Like
so good.
my daughter, every time they go to their room, because they love Minecraft. So they play Minecraft while I do my interviews. And every single time she's like, good luck, mum. Like she just
Oh, that's so
100%.
cute.
Yeah, they're very good. They're very good. All right, last question. Is there anything you would like people to know about you or your work?
Just that I write spicy. So if spicy books aren't your thing, maybe find another book.
Yeah.
But if you like spicy books, then read anything that I have because it's there. And yeah, I think also one of the main things that I love doing is finding someone who doesn't like a certain trope or something like that and changing their minds. So if you're like, not really a fantasy fan, not super keen on that, and I'll be like, yeah, but try my book. And then they change their mind. They're like, I was just kidding. No, I love it. And so that's really fun to do. So I think I love having such a broad range of books. So I think if you're looking for a book that you wouldn't normally read mine. And I'm
Okay.
and just I think in general giving things a go that might you might be putting off. Definitely do
Mhm.
that. But yeah, I think I'm an author and I want people to read my books and reach out to me. And I'm on Instagram, so message if you want. And I'm going to keep writing, and there's going to be lots of content coming. So if you like books, then read them.
Amazing. Well, you can change my mind because I never really got massively into the whole fantasy trope.
Oh, that's because you started with Game of Thrones.
True. But I mean, even just watching, like, actually, no, I like the vampire stuff.
Oh,
You know,
yes. That
I
is
like,
actually the
yeah.
one thing I haven't written. I have a series planned for it,
Oh,
but I have
okay.
not written vampire stories. I mean, there are vampires in my Alphas series, but
Hmm.
not like as the love interest. They're the bad guys.
Okay. All right. Well, then maybe I need to read your fantasy book so that I can go into fantasy and reading.
They
So
are very spicy.
that's fine.
That is actually the one thing that is quite hard with the Alphas series is that I wrote it when I first wrote it, and it was always in the genre of the various spicy genre. The
Okay.
E word that I won't say. But yeah, it's yeah, so that was always werewolf that spicy,
Hmm.
spicy. And so I think now that they're being published on Amazon and stuff, I think a lot of readers are missing the plot is meant to be second.
Okay. All right. Well,
And
I think
so
I really need to read this now.
yes. But yeah, I think my contemporary are a bit less, but Study Buddy was my least spicy book. Study
Yeah.
Buddy was my least, but you should definitely read it. If you watched the movie and you enjoyed the movie, you should definitely read it because it's like reading it behind the scenes and it's got so much more to it, more substance and stuff. So definitely give it a read if you've watched it and enjoyed it.
I'm waiting for that hard copy. I want the hard copy. Yep.
Yes, I want the paperbacks.
Hmm.
I'm waiting.
Yes. Fingers crossed they come soon because I really want
Yes,
one of them.
that
So,
would be very cool.
yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for having this interview with me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a cool interview. Good questions.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, you take care of yourself and I will speak to you again soon.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Thanks.